Hello everyone and welcome to the LSI F1 Championship. We're today for the Brazilian Grand Prix and we've got one shot qualifying for the sprint race. Briscoe Jr. Big mistake earlier in the lap, but they've managed to keep it going. Sulkin's given it a good effort, but it's going to be the Williams on pole position for the sprint race by a tiny margin. Egapro P3, absolutely incredible. Let's see how this one goes. Welcome to Sao Paulo. Welcome to round 8 of LSI. Briscoe Jr. on pole position. Once again, it's Sulkin P2, it's Igor P3, and that is the rest of the grid. We are to know that this is going to be the last time that we'll see Jericho Willis driving for a while. A couple of races at least. We'll see what they can do. PJ returning to the LSI F1 Championship. We have Tom, of course, and then we've got the Griggs racing for the first time in LSI. Ready, hold, go! Who's going to get it into turn 1? Briscoe Jr. on the outside line, but they've got a brilliant launch and Sulkin can't find a way through. Defending instead from Egapro, who's going to keep their wing in, but they just back out at the last second. We've got Heischler having a go, trying to look, but it's another attempt here for Egapro and it's P2 already. A circuit that they love and they've made progress. Here we go though, it's Jericho Willis on the inside as Sulkin continues to get swarmed on this hard compound tyre, and Frantics on the way as well, with Heischler dropping down the order from where they started. What is going on? That's the tyre situation. We've got a mix of mediums and hards. I did not expect that, but the tyre degradation must be very high, and we must have a big problem. Oh, and that's Griggs, unfortunately, at the home Grand Prix in the first opening half of a lap. And they're down the order with a big spin, and it looks like Tom was involved in that one, and that's really frustrating there for the Red Bull car. Tom hopefully okay. Nope, they're not. They've got no end plates on the left or the right there, so they're going to have to try and go back to the drawing board. We've got Heischler in P7 off the start, looking to try and score some points. They're currently on for 2 points if they finish where they are. This man, 8 points with a fastest lap as well to start the second lap with Egapro on the same tyre directly behind them. Showing good pace as well, showing good progress, but they've got Jericho Willis to try and hold behind by the time Jericho's tyres die off. Is there something that they do not know that the others do who have started on the hards? Well, Jericho and Heisler both on the mediums, the championship contenders. Verth not here today. EagerPro not far away in the championship actually, so if everything goes completely their way this weekend, then maybe they could have a go into the final few races. Sulkin, that being said, is not that far away relative to EagerPro either. It would be a lot more complicated, but not impossible. We'll see how it goes. We've got Sulkin with pressure from Frantic, wants to have a look. That's Sulkin now, a big mistake, and surely the Alpine's going to try and come through. They're going to be in the slipstream, they're going to have to DRS. We're going to see Jericho Willis also overtake EagerPro into the first corner. It's going to be an easy move. Sulkin stays ahead of Frantic, and there is no position change there for those guys. We've got PJ switching positions with Heisler as Heisler makes that progress. PJ holding on with the group of cars that have experience in the F1 25 game, and this is only a couple of hours into PJ's experience of the F1 25 game, so they are doing a pretty good job to be in the position where they are. 42, the classic racing number from the OG. We'll see what they can do if they have that racing might that we've seen so many times in the past. Right now holding on to the back of the pack so far quite nicely. We'll see if they can continue this or not, as that is a very tight bunched up area. Sulkin, Frantic and Heisler, and they're going to have to try and open that up between each other. Of course, Jericho made that move as they try to get a bit of a kind of slingshot effect to catch up to Briscoe. It's 2.0 seconds away, and it's Jericho Willis using something there surely to get that kind of exit and then turn off the battery by the time they get to the braking zone. EagerPro and Sulkin bunched right up and ready to make a move if Jericho Willis doesn't push the limit. Sulkin surely going to have a look at something within the couple of laps. They have pressure from behind, but they're putting more pressure on in front as far as we could see in the last half a lap or so. It's going to be the best bet of making progress, that's for sure, as it always would be. You can see Heisler in the background there, behind his teammate by a fair few points. And I will say, we've seen this many times at the start of races. Jericho Willis has been much higher than Heisler, but just with some misfortune here and there and some teamwork, they don't really end up being able to finish the races directly ahead of Heisler by the time it gets to crossing the line. 2.2 seconds, dropping 2/10 away from the Williams car, who's absolutely rapid right now, flying away from the rest of the pack. EagerPro having to put the pressure on Jericho Willis. They want to try and have a think about Briscoe, but maybe they're thinking about the longer game now, because they've got that hard tyre. They're waiting for the medium of Jericho Willis to break away. If they then go for the move on Jericho Willis, and then Sulkin can have a go at that medium tyre, that will allow EagerPro to try and focus on breaking away whilst the two cars behind battle it out. But will that play out according to the plan I've just mentioned? Is that EagerPro's plan in the first place? We don't quite know. Tom having that issue, but not making a pit stop. They're staying out to score the point, and Griggs is giving it their best shot and just getting the laps in, and hopefully they can have a little bit of a better start to the race in the next one. Briscoe, 2.6 seconds now. They extend by another few tenths of a lap. Of a second. Oh, and there we go. The inside line for EagerPro. Space is left. A switchback is possible, but no! Sulkin tries to stick their nose in, and into the wall they go, just travelling across the grass, and there's nothing they can do. And EagerPro, who was looking to try and have a go at the championship with Sulkin as well, is now no more. A switchback was always going to be attempted there by the Aston Martin. Sulkin trying to stick their nose in, and it all just got a little bit confusing. And that's both cars into the wall. It promotes Heisler, PJ and Frantic to positions automatically. And they somehow don't lose the DRS train to the back of Jericho Willis. I think because of all of that was going on, and also Frantic and Heischler will have had DRS. PJ, unfortunately, in all of that, lost the DRS. I don't know if that was a related mistake or not. Now we do have the two McLarens very close to one another, and we might end up seeing some sort of game here. So I do feel for Frantic, because Frantic has got half a chance at actually keeping this position, let alone going to P2, as they have two McLarens that are going to be working against them, as 3.7 seconds possibly have written off the chance of getting back and catching to Briscoe, because right now there doesn't really seem to be any chance of actually catching the Williams car. Lap 8 out of 12 begins. Frantic, pressured by Heischler. Heischler, left or right, goes to the left. Frantic doesn't fight it, and Heischler will go through. Eventually, no, it's still going to be side by side, but backing out at the last second. And Jericho Willis is going to move through away from his teammate, and now they're going to be going side by side using the battery. That's as close as it's going to get with your front wing. And that was Jericho Willis doing everything they could with the battery to stay ahead of Frantic all the way to the braking zone. And that is it. That's the move done. And I don't think Frantic's going to see that one back. They should have fought that a bit harder, especially at this stage of the Grand Prix. Oh, and Jericho Willis has been caught napping. Will we see Frantic go for a move around the outside, or is it Jericho Willis actually slowing down to try and allow his teammate to break away? It seems that that could be the case. And I don't think Frantic is going to really have an answer to this one. You've got 6 tenths away. Jericho Willis tries to back away from his teammate so then he can use the DRS and get the benefit of it and prevent Frantic from having a move on him. But also the risk is taking Frantic with him to then overtake Heischler if they're not careful. Frantic is not going to be in a position to make a move with no battery. They back off. And I think that's pretty much job done. Heischler's going to be finishing P2. It's just about Jericho Willis and Frantic at this stage, because Frantic has got two of the exact same car to try and get past. If deja vu isn't going to be the problem, I don't know what is. Jericho Willis seems to be the much faster car. Heischler very slow into turn 4, almost catching Jericho Willis out, and the American has got a lot of maths to work out here. Where do they want to be positioned behind their teammate? How far away do they want to be to try and get the benefit? And are they going to still be able to maintain that DRS? Because if they accidentally lose it, then Frantic goes through, and there is a risk that they will then be able to have a go back at Heischler. There it is, though. Frantic in the DRS tracks, but no ERS tracks. It's all been obliterated. It's another mistake there for Heischler as they go completely wide into the first corner. But Jericho Willis is a little bit too far away to really worry about catching up to Heischler and having an issue. They catch up eventually by turn 4, using the DRS to its intended effect and saving battery as they do it. So these guys are working together very, very nicely. 9.5 as Sulkin gets the fastest lap, as they have made that pit stop, of course, after their incident a few laps ago. PJ holding on to P5 at the moment, still looking to score a decent amount of points, even if they have broken away slightly from the pack from earlier on. Tom doing what they can with the lack of front wing that they have, sulking in P7. We've got Eager Pro and the Griggs in P9, giving it a good effort as well. In last place, no point, but still getting that experience. Brusco Jr. maximum points, 8 points for a sprint race win, and they're currently cruising to that one, 7.7 seconds on the hards. They had all the disadvantage they were going to have in this race in the opening stages. They combated that already, and there are no questions about it. 7.5 seconds now. Brusco Jr. is going to take the victory of the Brazilian Grand Prix sprint race. It's just about whether Frantic is able to stir anything up between the two McLarens and cause some sort of fiasco. Once again, as I will say, the chances of making that happen is incredibly difficult, but not impossible in theory. What will they try to do? Tom with a time penalty. That's two drivers with time penalties in this race. Eager Pro makes a mistake, unfortunately, on their own, having an even worse sprint race than it already was. Hopefully they can have a bit of a better time around the circuit that they love, or that they at least go very well at in the main race. And there is no attempt from Frantic this time, and I don't think we're going to see an attempt from Frantic at all. No battery to use. Jericho Willis turns it on. And there you go, a bit of an interesting gear shift situation for Frantic. The double shift, which doesn't necessarily work enough on 25. And they're just waiting behind. But I don't think the battery is going to be quite available to compete against a DRS train team of cars. All over the rear end, no grip, it doesn't matter. We're going to see Briscoe Jr. come around the final few corners. They go up the hill and down it once again, across the line to take it, the top step in the sprint race. Briscoe Jr. wins the sprint race in Brazil. It's Heischler who's going to take that P2 from Jericho Willis in P3, and then we have Frantic. PJ will cross the line in P5, and then we'll see Tom, who gets promoted ahead of his teammate, and Eager Pro, of course, after their incident earlier on. Although that being said, Tom with a time penalty, I don't think they're going to need to worry about anything. Good effort though to complete that race with no front wing, effectively half a front wing. Sulking crosses the line, and there is Eager Pro with the Griggs at the back of the pack, but still completing the race distance. Good to see everybody still in this one to the very end. Briscoe Jr. starting off the event very nicely. Still got a qualifying session and a main race to go. What can they do with this one? Where can they take it? And it is Briscoe Jr. taking victory in Brazil. It's Heischler, Jericho Willis, Frantic, PJ, Tom, Sulkin, Eager Pro, and the Griggs. The race director's on your screen. And then we go to the pit stop section. We'll go and extract or export the session results. And we'll be back for the main qualifying and main race in a few moments' time. We'll see you in about 5 to 10 minutes. Hello everyone and welcome back to the LSI F1 World Championship. We're back for qualifying for the main race and we'll see what we can do. EagerPro's just gone fastest as they've crossed the line in the background. We're on board with Frantic, starting their first timed lap, or looking to be their first lap to get on the board, at least for the Dutchman in the Alpine at the back at the moment. And it looks like it's going to be a good one. Many more opportunities to set a fastest lap in qualifying. EagerPro showing why they really do love this circuit. Briscoe Jr., of course, just coming from a win earlier on. They are probably having buckets of confidence at the moment. Frantic across the line, and it's going to be a P6 to 7.869, just behind Jericho Willis and a little bit in front of PJ. And Briscoe Jr. currently sitting P2, and they are on a lap. Let's see what we can get from the Williams car. They've got half a battery left to go all the way up to the finish line. Watch them blast it all up until they get to the timing beam. It's going to be DRS open and across the line to set a 1:07.142 and dominate the fastest time of the entire grid so far, with 7 minutes on the clock. And it's only going to get quicker. We're only going to see lap times improve and improve and improve. Track evolution is going to be brutal around a short circuit like this. Jericho Willis in P5 at the moment. They're up very shortly to get a lap done. It's going to be PJ across the line and into the pit lane, actually. We'll see the Alpine, of course, go to the pit lane as well. And then we've got the Ferrari of Sulkin and Tom, who I thought were moving out the way of EagerPro earlier on, but they are now setting a lap time. So we'll see what we can get from one of the Ferraris. At least it is Sulkin slowing out the way. It's then going to be Tom who's invalidated from their lap. We then do go to Jericho Willis, as it's going to be Heischler starting their lap next. But across the timing beam, what's it going to be for Jericho Willis with DRS open and up to the line? Can they show their good form that continues? And it does. They go up ahead of their teammate just by a short margin. Still a little way from EagerPro and a long way away from Briscoe, but it's more like it from what we've seen so far this season. And now we see Heischler up next, the only car on track that's setting a lap on fresh tyres. And the championship contender, and not quite the new championship leader just yet, is doing everything they can here. And across the line, it's a 7.234, splitting EagerPro and Briscoe Jr. quite nicely. Lovely stuff from them. EagerPro on their way out onto the circuit to try and give it another shot. We'll see what they can do. The Griggs also on an outlap at the moment, as Frantic is continuing to set lap after lap to try and get some good running in this session as best as they possibly can. And whilst we do this, we're going to head over to the home hero, who is about to give it another go. Currently in 9.7, a little bit of a way back, but reserving today to give it their best shot in front of the home crowd. DRS is open as they begin. Into the first corner, braking as hard as they possibly can. They've got the big old banked outside as you have to bleed it in and avoid that understeer. Try and avoid the track limits as you cut everything as much as you can. Minimize track distance on the left, then back with DRS open as you plummet towards turn 4. The braking zone around 100 meters. Brake as hard as you can once again, but bleed off as quick as you can to keep up the minimum speed. And then as soon as you see the exit curb, you put the throttle on and you point your car to it. As you go through the middle sector, up the hill where the car gets light and then back onto the brakes. And you've got to dance the car through the left and the right, once again up the hill. The traction just dropping and gaining as you go up and down and up and down, and once again back down the hill to then go once again back up the hill immediately. And one of the most complicated corners of the entire circuit, even though it seems to be so simple, the final 90, and then you've got a run all the way to the line with DRS across the line for the brig. What's it going to be? It's going to be still a P9, but a nice improvement, closing up nicely to the back of Tom. The Griggs is giving it their best shot. Eager Pro looking to try and compete for pole position today. They've not been able to set a lap so far, unless they decided to go for 2 runs to try and minimise fuel and maximise tyre temperature. I don't know. But 2.5 minutes on the clock. They're not going to go back into the pit lane and come back out again. This is it for the Serbian. This is their final run. This is their pole position attempt. They're currently sitting in P3, a 7.385. A couple of tenths away from the top time with Briscoe Jr. Heishler's out on track. Jericho Willis frantic, all out on track, as well as PJ. You've still got Briscoe and Sulkin waiting for the perfect moment to leave the pit lane. They're leaving it quite late. I know it's Sao Paulo, but traffic can be brutal. Locking up the rears! No! No, no, no! Eager Pro has tried to give it everything, and in the final moment, it's gone all horribly wrong. They move out the way, and they're going to try and give it a shot at putting the brakes on, and maybe saving enough battery to go one final time, because that is their only option at having another look at pole position here. As you can see, Heishler is burning the fuel. And that's why they've given themselves plenty of time to set multiple laps, as we see Frantic overtake them in the meantime as they go into the first corner, and they are looking to set a fast lap. Eager Pro just now leaving the final 90 and is going to be giving it another attempt, even with some maybe slightly warmer rear tyres than they wanted. Is it a blessing in disguise? Do they get another warm-up? Well, not really, because now they've got 2 lap older tyres. Frantic through the left and the right, using the battery. They'll be gaining back some in the middle sector, under braking, to try and then use it all the way up to the line. Just blasting a little bit here and there to get that speed up. And here it is, the run that you've got to hope you've got enough battery, and you pray that you get a good exit, and you use it all the way up to the final moment. What's it going to be for Frantic? It's going to be almost 2/10 improvement to P5, a 7.504, just ahead of Jericho Willis. Not quite able to get to Sulkin, but that's it. That could be it for them. We're going to go through the order. We see Tom across the line, and they improved, but not position-wise in the end. They've given it a good shot, though, that's for sure. The Griggs is done with qualifying. We've got PJ, who will finish their session here in which position. It's not going to matter, and unfortunately, we've seen the car go upside down. I do apologise for that one. Eager Pro in the pit lane. That is it. Eager Pro will not be able to compete for pole position. It's going to be Heishler here, but Jericho Willis next to finish their lap. What's it going to be from the American, who's had such a good run in qualifying in previous times? Across the line, DRS open. And it's going to be a P5, a 7.486. They couldn't quite find any more in the end in the tank. It's sulking into the pit lane. It's Briscoe Jr. on pole position, and they take it even further. Absolutely incredible stuff right there. Is Heischler going to have an attempt at getting that back? Are they going to go for pole position across the line? What's it going to be? Oh, they just miss out in the end, but a brilliant improvement. 1.54. Briscoe Jr. is on pole position once more. Heischler now starting on the front row of the grid compared to where they ended up in the sprint race. Heischler is going to give it their best shot to try and repeat Singapore and get back into that lead. Pro looking to try and win Brazil once again. It's a circuit that they do go well at, so sure, why not? There it is, Briscoe on pole, Heischler in P2, and Pro in P3. This is the race director. We'll be back for the race. We'll see you in a second. Ready, hold, go! Who's going to get it into turn one? It's Briscoe on the outside line. They have the grip, they have the launch. It's Heischler versus Pro, and Heischler gets there into turn two. It's side by side with Frantic and Jericho Willis, and Frantic has the upper hand. The old rivals going at it once again in Brazil. What can they get done? Into turn four though, they come back, they look to the inside, they break late and they're ahead, but only by margins as Frantic has pushed all the way up to the line. Absolutely brutal stuff. The inside line for Tom. And a big bit of understeer for PJ as they go down the order and then lose it on the bump. What a disaster of a few moments right there. They might get a penalty by the game and they're going to serve that in the pit lane, and there's nothing we can do to remove that one. That's really frustrating for PJ's race after losing all that ground. Briscoe though leads the way, Heischler hunting them down. Lap 2 about to begin, and it's been once again another flawless start from the Williams driver. A bit of deja vu almost, but now they do have the other McLaren directly behind them instead. Pro is back there sulking also. They are revived from the dead after their crash earlier on. Hopefully that doesn't happen again today. Jericho Willis sat in that P5 position as they aggressively fought to get back ahead of Frantic. Frantic's not going to be in the best of moods after that one. But we'll see if they can do anything about it. Tom in P7 and the Griggs with PJ back catching for company. The Red Bull and the Racing Bull going to give it a good old battle, I'm sure, to decide where each other's going to be on track for the next few corners. PJ, though, looking very twitchy left and right with that setup. So I'm not entirely sure what their plan is, but it looks like it's going to be some sort of move in the next lap, or this lap exactly, because DRS is available, and I'm sure we'll see something. We do want to have a quick look at the rest of the field, as that's PJ making a mistake, and unfortunately they're going to lose out big time to that. But they will still give it a go, I'm sure. ERS being spammed, DRS used, and it's to the inside line. Nothing really questioned there. With the amount of speed that they carried in, it's going to be a good one, but it's also going to be a possible comeback here. But we go to the race lead, and it's going to be Heischler into P1. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And then back to the battle. It's the Griggs switching to the left-hand side with the fake move, but they didn't quite get there. The front wing was almost gone, but they luckily keep it out of the way. Heischler into P1, switching positions. Briscoe allowed that one to happen in the end. They turned the battery off and backed off, slotted into P2 to make sure that they didn't lose the position to EagerPro in P3. And if they lost the position to P3, then Sulkin's going to see a vulnerability and they're going to try and make a move as well. And all of a sudden you just go backwards and backwards and backwards. That's the nature of Sao Paulo. That's the nature of league racing if you're not careful. Our new race leader for the first time this evening. And I know it's only lap 4 in this race, but we did just have a 12-lap sprint race. And it was always the Williams almost into the back of the McLaren as they try to push their car to the limit. And Heischler tries to focus on the best exit possible. A long old race behind him right now, or ahead of him I should say. Only a few into this one. Already a few into this one I should say, out of 36. It's gone pretty fast already. It is a short lap. You get many opportunities to do the same corner again and again and again very, very quickly. But it does also mean you've got to pick your points right. Your attacking points and your strategy points. When will you go for what tyre? Oh no! Briscoe locking up and luckily ghosting, otherwise that would have been Jericho Willis with a big bit of damage to their car. What a shame for Briscoe. They're still in the train. They've still got DRS. They haven't spun the wheels. It's just a little bit of grass on the tyre. And they're going to be good to go. They're going to be good to stay in this battle. We're going to look at the tyre situation to see if that will affect things. Everybody, except from PJ, on the medium tyre starting right now. It unleashes EagerPro into P2, directly hunting for the victory now. Briscoe's got progress to make if they want to try and come back to take this Grand Prix victory, as they took the last Grand Prix victory back in Spain, the closest race to their home. It was just a fairy tale, wasn't it? Racing against the reigning champion as well to get the job done. It was not an easy one for them. They proved a point that day. But they're now having to try and prove it all over again after a mistake like that. Heischler, 3.5 tenths from EagerPro. That gap is going to continue to fluctuate as the laps go on. Frantic looking very close to the back of Jericho Willis in the background there. Will we see a switch? Will we see a switch with the likes of EagerPro and Heischler? Well, that's EagerPro going to the inside line, but they back off. It is side by side though between the Alpine. Oh, there's a mistake. There's contact, and there is going to be Frantic going through. There's going to be a slow-moving McLaren who ends up actually getting in the way of the Williams, who now wants to have a go at the McLaren, turning off the battery. I don't think they've got anything to really use anymore. It's Jericho Willis almost colliding colliding, and they do end up colliding big time with Briscoe, and Briscoe is going to be frustrated with that one, just using all their battery to get through, and then it's been denied by a big bit of contact there. I know that was a bit of oversteer from Jericho Willis, and not necessarily intentional, but it still happened. Briscoe isn't going to be happy, and maybe a little bit less patient with making a move. They've spent a couple of laps now directly behind that McLaren, and now they're not going to want to wait any longer when they next get their next opportunity. It's frantic, almost out of DRS range. They might have even just lost it if they're not careful. Sulkin in direct attacking range to both Heischler and Egapro, and putting the pressure on Egapro to make that move into the first corner on the McLaren, and it is going to be, surely this time, the move for P1. The inside line is chosen. Is the switchback going to be there? No, it's going to be side by side through turn 3. The space is left, and it is Egapro through with DRS, and Sulkin is going to make the move as well. Heischler loses 2 positions in just a couple of corners, and there's no way they're going to get back there on the Ferrari. A brilliant, brilliant move played out by Egapro. It meant that they got DRS and Heischler just dropped back even further. Incredible stuff. And nothing that the Dutchmen could do as they try their best to compete for the championship, and they are. Although it's going to be very unlikely for them to give it a go competing against Egapro for the championship. Frantic, holding on nicely, probably helped a little bit by that drama that just happened a few moments ago. We're going to see Sulkin and Egapro 2.0. It's the Ferrari to the outside line. It's Egapro going slightly defensive. And once again, Sulkin making contact with the rear end of the Aston Martin car. They've got to be careful that it doesn't go any further like it did last time, otherwise they will be in trouble. They've got pressure from Heischler directly behind, but Heischler's actually got no battery relative to Sulkin. So actually, this is looking pretty difficult for Heischler. I thought it was just an unfortunate DRS situation, but no, working hard at the battery to deploy it and save it where they can to stay with the cars ahead right now. Egapro looks quick. Sulkin is trying their best to put that pressure on. And the train all goes from all the way from P1 to P6, and we've got Tom, who has a little bit of a battle on their hands with PJ catching up. And it's the Griggs at the back of the pack that still once again putting in the laps and giving it their best shot, and we are very happy with that indeed. Egapro P1. DRS still available to the car behind, but it is a 7/10 gap, and you don't do that all on your own when you're in P1. It's going to be lost immediately as everybody will catch back up into the first few corners, and then we'll get a second dose of DRS immediately again. That's just the way it is around Brazil. It's brutal stuff. That's going to be the pit lane for Briscoe Jr., who goes for the early stop and is now going to try and make everybody do something about it. The hard tyre is chosen. They're going the long way in this Grand Prix. Now Briscoe Jr. is going to have to probably try and overtake the Griggs. That's going to be a little bit of a difficult one for them. There's a couple of seconds in between them now, so they might be lucky to avoid it, but on that fresher tyre they're going to be quick and they're going to be catching. Egapro, will they stay out and stick to the standard strategy? Is the standard strategy not what I think it is? Or are they going to follow the sheep and go into the pit lane as Briscoe Jr. has just done? Well, Briscoe's at the back of the pack. They were looking for something completely different to gain them something in this race. It split Heischler, or actually no, Heischler's kind of split on their own. Jericho Willis almost split as well. It is Sulkin into P1, getting a good old slingshot. It means that now DRS is available to Egapro. I don't think Eagle's going to be in a position to make a move really. It wouldn't be too wise to do so at this stage. Not got too much battery to really use either, and both drivers are turning off the battery. That allows in turn Heischler to catch up as they've got that DRS as well. We've got Frantic catching up. We've got Jericho Willis all of a sudden dropping back after they've just made some sort of mistake there. And now the middle sector, it's a little bit complicated. That being said, you can see the field bunching up, and it won't be a problem for Jericho Willis to gain all that time back and stay within the DRS range. They're lucky that this lap is where everybody's bunching up, because if they were pushing for the pit lane, then yeah, it would have been a very different scenario. They're still on the limit of DRS being lost, and they don't exactly have their teammate directly ahead of them. That's a mistake there. Oh no, and Briscoe's had more issues, and leaving the pit lane after making an undercut stop, they drop back behind the Griggs, and now they've got to try and figure it all out again. We don't see anybody else going to the pit lane. We see a good old train happening in front of us, which we will go back to if we need to. So that is really frustrating there for the Griggs, because... not the Griggs, sorry. Briscoe Jr., because now that strategy is almost invalid. And they're going to have to push even harder than they would have had to before. And they're going to be disadvantaged by the time they get to the end of this Grand Prix. They do catch up to the back of the pack, or sorry, the back of the Griggs, but when would they be able to go for a move? As we keep an eye on the mini-map to see where everybody is relative to our race leader. We've of course got 7 tenths between Igapro and Sulkin, so Sulkin's found some good pace at this stage of the Grand Prix. The pit stops are upon us though, and we're just waiting for that call. Jericho Willis still struggling at the back of the pack a little bit. This time, as I just speak, it doesn't really seem that much of an issue, and it's more Frantic who's having a bit of a troublesome time as everybody charges in through to the first corner, but not Frantic as they go straight into the pit lane. In the meantime, we saw that move there for Briscoe, and they go to P8. And now we'll see if anything else can happen. It's PJ promoted, and Tom as well, as Frantic is in that pit lane. Relative to the Alpine, where is this Williams car going to come out? Are they going to make progress on anyone, or are they going to actually just end up basically making exactly the same? Well, look, they were directly behind Frantic when they pitted. They're now directly behind Frantic as they leave the pit lane, does Frantic. 3 laps difference. It might not make a massive difference right now, but towards the end of the Grand Prix, that 3 laps could be a problem. And Briscoe is going to be frustrated, but they've got to be happy that they have made that progress. That's a fellow undercutter that they're with, and that DRS that they're about to get is going to help them massively, because these guys haven't made a single pit stop at the moment. It's P1, P2, P3 and P4 all in a train, all within DRS of each other, but who's going to make the next call to go into the pits? It's going to be Sulkin. Igapro stays out. We're surely going to see a McLaren into the pit lane as well. We don't see a McLaren into the pit lane. The McLaren stay out. It's Heischler now directly in attacking range for Igapro once more. Would they try and take the lead of the Grand Prix again? I'm not entirely sure. Jericho Willis, however, they have got a bit of pressure because 8 tenths isn't exactly simple. And now there's only 2 cars ahead, so they're not going to be bunching up. Jericho Willis has to pit surely this lap. I think Igapro will dictate what Heischler does. I think they will follow Heischler. Sorry, Igapro. Jericho Willis will do the opposite as to what Igapro does. That is a yellow. That is unfortunately Tom having an issue. Sulkin catches up to his teammate, and they're just directly ahead of Frantic and the rest of, sorry, I say that, Briscoe in P8. So they are all very much in the train, and we do see Igapro into the pit lane, and both McLaren stay out. That is not what I expected. Igapro reacts as they look like they were having a very slow entry into the pit lane. Where is this going to end up everybody being? As we've got side-by-side moment with the 2 teammates as the Ferrari is a big old mobile chicane as they go into the pit lane on those old tyres. it's going to be Sulkin getting a free bit of DRS and no overtakes will happen into the first corner. But yes, I think that was a problem possibly for EagerPro on the pit lane entry, but also the big undercut from the rest of the field. They're going to be at the back of this pack. They're going to be able to catch up, I'm sure, but EagerPro has got a bit of work to do before they can really get there, and they've got some cold tyres as well. Going off the circuit, they've got to be careful that they don't get themselves a time penalty. So far so good really on time penalties. We've only seen a few drivers have any issues, but it is a circuit that is quite simple to get time penalties at. There you go, EagerPro already caught up as the train up ahead are in kind of dirty air of each other and slowing each other not down, but in the corners they definitely do. EagerPro had that pit stop a lap ago. Now it's Heischler, and we're going to see Jericho Willis extend yet another lap. And I'm not entirely sure if that was a good idea, because Jericho Willis has now, well, he's now going to be on a more standard strategy as I would have expected in the F1 game from previous games, but not necessarily in F1 25. How will this one play out for Heischler? Well, they're coming out a fair way behind actually, so that undercut has got even more powerful as the laps go on. So Jericho Willis, where will they end up? That's contact with the wall from Heischler. Heischler pushing to the limit on the pit lane exit, and I'm not sure if they would have really had any problems with that. I hope they haven't got any damage, but it was definitely a bit of a knock on that side barrier. 2.9 seconds, that is incredible to see that difference of tyre drop off in getting that undercut, with the DRS being enabled by the cars in front as well. We've had your previous race leaders, Briscoe, Eagle in P1, now they're P5 and 6, and last on the train, except from Heischler of course. And it's Frantic and Sulkin who's managed to find themselves in a much better position. It's Jericho Willis into the pit lane. Sulkin will be promoted to P2. PJ, of course on a different strategy, does put Sulkin into the net race lead of this Grand Prix. Jericho Willis going to be coming out much further behind Heischler again, almost making a mistake on the pit lane exit. It's a long old pit lane exit to try and get right. But look at that. That gap between the two teammates now. 2.6 seconds is the undercut time relative to a few laps ago. That cliff really did hit hard. And it's now meant that although Heischler's got some of the freshest tyres and his teammate, they've now got a massive gap to catch up. That is Briscoe though, making a mistake surely, as they've lost DRS range, and if they're not careful they're not going to get it back. They're on the limit. They're working hard at the wheel to try and get it. DRS on the limit, but it's going to be Frantic, relentless, trying to push with the battery. Briscoe fighting for the, I was going to say fighting for the life to try and get this one, fighting for the race, and they are just about within DRS range, but EagerPro realises that that is a struggling Williams and they can go and make the move, get a bit of a slingshot. That being said, it didn't actually work, did it? It was Frantic who managed to do a very good job and stay with Sulkin, and now they've broken away. EagerPro's got some work to do to try and catch up to these guys. PJ is going to be a little bit of a problem to the rest of the field. 16 lap old hard tyres relative to 4 lap old hard tyres. Wow, this is going to be complicated, isn't it? PJ finds himself in the lead of a Grand Prix and they don't want to give it up. Sulkin looking to try and take their second LSI career victory as they won back in Monza. DRS available, and I think it's going to be short-lived for PJ. An easy move into turn 1 with the DRS as an assistance. It's PJ who darts into the pit lane before we even get to the first corner, and unfortunately gets a 10-second time penalty as they speed into the pit lane. It's going to be Frantic holding on just about, as that was double DRS effectively for Frantic. Now there is no DRS for Sulkin, but that did allow Pro to catch up. But believe it or not, our pole sitter has not been able to do the same thing. They are having some problems. They're struggling at the moment. P4 with a time penalty to their name. That's a 10-second for speeding in the pit lane earlier on. PJ on their second 10-second time penalty after cutting the corner in the opening lap. It's Tom with a 3 seconds in this race. 4 tenths, 8 tenths, the top 3 on their own at the moment. Briscoe almost there, kind of creating an almost even split between Heischler and Co. Frantic, Igor and Sulkin though, they have to try and work together, because at the moment, yes, they have no DRS from the car behind, but as I said, it's Brazil. If you don't play it right, then all of a sudden those corners can really work against you and the cars behind can catch up massively. So they've got to make sure that they are careful with it all. And if they do work together, then they're going to have no problems at fighting for the victory. That being said, Frantic almost out of DRS range, pushing on the battery, I'm sure, to try and stay, but that's pretty tight, and Igapro's not going to have much patience with the victory on the line. Briscoe, P4 at the moment. DRS range is available now for Heischler if they can continue this gap for the rest of the lap, that is, of course. And they are catching. That's a yellow, and that's unfortunately Tom making a mistake as they go down the hill. It's going to be a frustrating on that, but they will rejoin the circuit in a safe manner with no front wing. Lucky to stay in this Grand Prix. It's a pretty unfair time penalty, but unfortunately it's going to be given by the game. No DRS this time for Frantic, and it is going to be a move for Igapro to try and now hunt down the Norwegian, but it's not going to be simple. That Ferrari's unlocked, it's unleashed, it's got clean air. Igapro is up next. That's a retirement in the pit lane. No safety car will be deployed. It's going to be a switch up between Briscoe and Heischler, as the 10-second time penalty runner doesn't have the DRS to be able to compete with that move. 2.5 seconds, Heischler tries to catch up to the cars in front. Now not a 3-horse race, but a 2-horse race chasing down a stray horse. As Heischler breaking away, it's a continuation for Sulkin to break away. Lap 21 out of 36. 1.3 seconds. It's only by small margins, but it's still happening. DRS available for Frantic, but not in a position to really challenge for a re-overtake. The Dutchman just sitting behind the green car, and that's all they can do at the moment. ERS, I'm sure, being used to try and stay within DRS range, but as Frantic just missed out, they have the top 3 now all on their own, but it is actually DRS from Igapro, and through turn 2 they're also going to get there. A massive charge from the Aston Martin shows that they've just done it, and now they're back. They are back looking for victory. That's going to be a difficult one for the Griggs with a soft tyre for sure. We'll see how that one goes. Of course, though, Eager Pro trying to do everything they can. They just had that DRS, but if they pushed a little bit too hard and they've got nothing left later on in the lap to hold on to that DRS, well, in the corners it seems that they've got the advantage over Sulkin. Sulkin's had a last lap battle so far this season for victory against Jericho Willis. They managed to get ahead in the end, but you're going up against an LSI F1 champion, an experienced racer of 6-7 years. This is going to be a complicated one for Sulkin if it goes down to the wire between these guys. Frantic and Heischler are going to be going at it as well. This is going to be an interesting one. Heischler continues to catch up to the Dutchman. It's going to be a Dutch duel. And Briscoe just seeming to lose everything. I don't know what's gone on, if they have damage from something that maybe happened with the Griggs earlier on, if there was an incident between the two. Jericho Willis is catching regardless with a time penalty for the Williams. Their race is only just getting worse and worse and worse, and we're not even over yet. PJ gave it their best shot, and they're continuing to get the laps in, get the miles in. And unfortunately, with the two 10-second time penalties, they've made their race very, very complicated. Frantic now 2.1 seconds away. And we've got two battles on our hands. How's it going to be played out by both of them, though? Well, Heischler and Frantic, I think they're probably going to have a pretty easy switch. I don't see Frantic fighting Heischler too hard at this stage, although maybe they're going to try and learn their lesson from earlier on. They're going into the pit lane. They're going into the pit lane. And they get a 10-second time penalty. Another 10-second time penalty in the F1 25 game. It seems to be catching a lot of drivers out, especially at Brazil, especially at Silverstone. And even at Monza, a very high-speed entry. There's Bush going to the pit lane, and they will serve their 10-second time penalty. The tables turn, but it's very much a one-stop for Jericho Willis and Heischler, and I'd assume the same for Eager Pro and Sulkin. 1 lap difference basically between them as you go up the grid. 11 laps, 10 laps, 9 laps and 8 laps, and then you get to the fresh pit stoppers. PJ looking to go to the end of the Grand Prix on the medium. And with serving that time penalty, they've ended up behind. There it is, though. The lead is going to be Eager Pro's, and Sulkin is not going to be able to do anything about it this time. Eager Pro leaves a big old gap to give room for Sulkin in turn 2, and they don't veer off into the wall through to turn 3. It is a switch. It is a move. It's Eager Pro P1. It's 1.6 seconds Heischler catching as these guys squabble for position. Side-by-side moments like that is not of a luxury. They can't afford to do that. They have to work together. We're on lap 25 out of 36. Heischler's hunting, and it will be too late before they know it. And actually, you know what? I think it's already too late. DRS range just a few moments away from Heischler, and they've only got to play a few corners right, and that will be theirs. DRS will gut wrench everything away from them as Sulkin catches up to the back of Igor, doesn't go for the move and just gains a 10th. But to be honest, Heischler did actually hold on quite nicely with that. It's whether they get a good exit here, because they have no DRS to counteract a good exit relative to Sulkin. Sulkin is catching up to the back of Eager Pro, and they go to the inside line. There's going to be contact, and that is going to be Heischler and DRS. I'm not entirely sure what the game plan is here for Sulkin. The outside line is going to be thought about, and they're going to continue to try and make the move. but it's not going to work. There's no way you're going to do it there on lap 26. And now Heischler gets a free invitation to the party. 9.7 seconds, just though showing that we do still have the pace. But this is the battle that we're watching. Jericho Willis at this stage might even be involved by the end of the Grand Prix. Better tyres. 3.6 seconds though is going to be difficult. Sulkin, after fighting Igapro to try and get through, is now going to find themselves in trouble from Heischler, who's going to try and have a look left or right. It's Igapro defending to the middle of the circuit, and now we're going to have Sulkin try and go to the inside line once again. Igapro just has to back off and give the space. There's contact once again as Sulkin changing their line in the middle of the corner, and there you go. Heischler's not happy. Sulkin's got to try and do something about this, because otherwise they're going to make some angry drivers even more angrier and get themselves in trouble. If you don't have a driver around you that has patience because of any actions that you may have made before, then you're going to have a very tough race. Sulkin made contact earlier on in the sprint with Igapro and has just fought them to lose DRS advantage over Heischler, and they've just cut Heischler off. They've not got too many allies on the circuit with them right now. I'm sure Igapro and Heischler are more than willing to work together to take this to the final couple of laps to decide the victory there and then. This time, Igapro 5 tenths away. It's going to be Sulkin once again trying to challenge for P1. It goes defensive, does Igapro, and they stay ahead. It's just marginal stuff, and Sulkin backed out of it. By the time they got to the corner, Heischler watches on, and they can't do anything about it. Oh, it's the inside line. They don't watch on. They are doing something about it. They go for the move. They brake late, and there you go. Braking late with less manners. Heischler says, thank you very much. I'll have that move this time around. Exactly what I was talking about, and now Sulkin is going to be not too happy with that move. So you get a vicious cycle. And in all of that, as I said, this man catches up nicely. 2 seconds under, now almost in a position to fight for the victory. Not with oversteer like that, but still on the right trajectory. As long as they keep it consistent, they'll be good to go. Heischler in direct attacking range. The DRS and ERS seems to be powerful. Into the first corner, you can catch up massively, very fast paced into turn 1. Still having to go defensive even from 6 tenths back is Igapro just in case. And then once again, of course, DRS comes back, and it's going to be an attempt here for Heischler. Even on that 29 out of 36, they ended up backing off in the end with the battery, but they used some. Sulkin not able to fight with this one. The 2 Brits and 1 Italian. That's the teams at least. How's it going to go? No British driver on the grid. The red, white and blue. Will it be Serbian or will it be Dutch? Will it be Norwegian? We don't quite know. We do know it's a defensive throw once again from Igapro. And Heischler can't find a way through on the limit. Sulkin gets an invitation to go back through, and they look hungry. They look like they want to go for the move. They're forcing Heischler to push with the battery, and that is really making it difficult because Heischler's now distracted, slightly driving defensively, using the battery to stay in front, using their resource. It's slowing them down a little bit relative to Igapro, but it's actually keeping them up quite nicely. with Jericho Willis. Although that being said, Jericho has just gained a couple of tenths as these guys bunch up in the corners. 1.5 seconds. It's still very much on. We've got a battle on our hands between Briscoe and PJ as they switch positions from earlier on. And with the time penalty situation, 6.4 seconds is what splits Frantic and Briscoe. Will Briscoe have the good enough tyres to really get there? The Griggs back into the pit lane. Once more, Eagle Pro starts lap 31 at a 36. That's PJ retiring. That's a full course safety car in the final laps of the race. Well, how about that? A big crash brings everything to a halt. Everyone to a standstill. And everyone into the pit lane. That's a guarantee. If you've got the mediums available, you go for the mediums. If you've not, then you're just going to have to use this soft tyre at this stage. Wouldn't necessarily be terrible, but the medium tyre I would still opt for. It's really up to driver preference, and catching the delta is really tight there. The Eagle Pro is going to be put under a lot of pressure here. We see Briscoe into the pit lane onto the softs 1 lap earlier than everybody else. Now that's going to mean that they do have 1 lap disadvantage, but they decide to go for that anyway. And Eagle is now making that call. It will be pretty straightforward into the pit lane. We're going to get Heisler trying to go for the overtake into the pit lane, but at Brazil, it's difficult enough to take it on your own. I don't think you're going to be able to outbrake another car. On a new front wing for Heisler is going to drop them behind their, not behind their teammate, because luckily they share a pit box with their teammate. It's going to be Jericho Willis, fortunate to not drop out behind Frantic. So Heisler gets away with that one massively, but there was a bit of a front wing issue from the Dutchman, and they've decided to make that call to go into the pit lane. Frantic onto a fresh set of soft tyres. Everybody on the softs. Except from the Griggs at the back at the moment. They are not a lap down. But they need to try and gain some time on the safety car, because otherwise they would end up getting themselves lapped again. Now, I want to check, are they a lap down? They're 128 from Briscoe Jr., so I do think they are still a lap down in this race. They'll be able to catch up nicely, but they can't afford to make a pit stop, at least for a while, if at all, if they want to try and do anything about catching up to the back of the pack. Will we see Briscoe or Frantic go into the pit lane this lap, or maybe even on the next lap, to get 1 lap fresher tyres? I don't quite know. We'll see if they have it available to them. Definitely would be considering it. That being said, of course, we've only got a few laps to go in this race. We're going to be racing regardless on lap 35 out of 36, and we will have DRS up to the line, and that is it. 1 DRS zone left in this Grand Prix if we go racing on lap 35. It will be all out battery 50-50 split over the 2 laps. Brutal stuff. Just pure fury to the line. It's going to be one hell of a battle. And I think because of the lapped car situation with the Griggs, it will probably take us all the way to 35 out of 36. Unless we get the late call from the safety car when we go over the sector line here. Just watch out for it. At the top of your screen, we do get the safety car staying out. So we won't get an extra lap of racing. There it is, lap 34. We'll be going racing on lap 35 out of 36, regardless of where the Griggs is. Warming up the tyres, anticipating the restart. Eager Pro not so much. Just waiting, trying to be calm. These cars will be burning as much fuel as they can to keep the car as light as it can be in these final moments. The car will be effectively should be lighter than a time trial car. Slightly less grip than a time trial car, with only a few laps to get the tyres up to temperature and a few laps of tyre wear. But it's going to be quick. It's going to be difficult to manage. Quickly want to do this a second, just to make sure we're all good to go before we go for this mad sprint to the end. And we are very much good to go. And the safety car is on. Oh, what the hell happened there? The safety car's in. And it's going to be Eager Pro leading the way. There it is. The safety car's in. And I don't know how this one is going to work. But it is going to be complicated. That's for sure. The safety car's not overtaking. Eager Pro is having to wait for the safety car to go into the pit lane before they can go. Where is it? It's waiting for Frantic. It's sat behind the Alpine car, and we're just having to get to the line. Eager Pro crawling as they can't do anything really about it. What's it going to be? Eager Pro crosses the line, and there you go. We're racing once again in LSI, and that was very, 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 very strange. But it doesn't change much realistically. It does, unfortunately, drop down Brusco. Brusco suffered massively. DRS available for the rest of the field, and everybody in this one. Brusco suffered from that one, unfortunately. Oh, and that is Sulkin looking very racy, wanting to have a go, but nothing really happening in the end. So far, Eager Pro has done what they needed to do, but do they use the battery to defend into the first corner, or do they use it to defend up to the line on the final lap? Here we go. Eager Pro rounds the final major corner to start the final lap of the Grand Prix. Who's it going to be in P1 out of all of this? Sulkin half a second away. DRS not available until we get to actually the next straight and the final straight as well. It's going to be absolutely crucial to play this to perfection. DRS for Sulkin. Would they go for the move early? It looks like they're definitely trying. It's defensive from Eager Pro. It's Sulkin to the inside line. The outside is going to continue to be the Aston Martins, and they will stay in front, but now it's going to be the outside to Sulkin. It's going to be tucking in behind goes Eager Pro. Eager Pro, for many years in a row, has been fighting for the victory around here in Brazil, and they've decided to take the lead position up to the line, and it's never worked out for them. They now slot in behind. DRS is going to go to the Aston Martin. Sulkin leads the way, and it will be up to the flag. Who's going to get there? Sulkin makes a mistake on the exit. Eager Pro's going to get the run. Here's the DRS, the ERS. It's all even. Lap 36, the final lap. Who's going to get there up to the line? It's going to be Sulkin, who wins once again, half a tenth of a second. Incredible stuff. Heisler in P3 and Jericho Willis in P4. Frantic and Brusco with the Griggs just behind. And after all of that, EagerPro decides to go into the train and get the DRS. But it just didn't work again. He can't catch a break around Interlagos, but this guy can. Sulkin is victorious once again. Lovely stuff, and it's always a last lap battle. Sulkin in P1, it's EagerPro in P2. We've got Heisler, Jericho Willis, Frantic, Brusco Jr. and the Griggs. DNFing earlier on was PJ and Tom Robb. The race directors on your screen now. And we will go to the pit stop section, and we'll be back for the post-race interviews. We'll see you in a bit. Hello everyone, welcome to the post-race interviews of the Brazilian Grand Prix. It doesn't get too much crazier than that. It's absolutely incredible stuff. We start with Heisler. That was an up and down race, to say the least, from every perspective. It was really complicated, with a sprint to add to it as well. Are you happy with the way it all went? Your championship looks like it's definitely closed up nicely.
No, I'm not happy, to be honest. Yeah, the game is just awful. Not much more to say in that aspect. Yeah, the sprint is fine, I guess. P2 was the maximum. If Brusco didn't pull away, I might have been able to fight him. But yeah, just had a rough start of the sprint. But it is what it is. The sprint is not the most points, so still gained points on anyone ahead of me, and anyone behind me except Brusco lost points there. So I guess that's fine. Then the race was fine as well. I actually wanted to undercut people, but then they decided to pit way earlier than I expected. And to be honest, I don't think Salkin would have been close to puncture territory, I think, if it just went the way it went. Yeah, I knew with the better tires I could catch up at some point. It would take some time. It would take a lot of effort, but I knew it was possible. Because so far I could see, they were dropping off quite quickly as soon as they hit the wear hit. Well, from what I could see on the medium stint, so I knew I could catch up. I managed to overtake Salkin, which isn't easy in a DRS train, but I just caught him napping. And then I pretty much could be P2 for all the time and just try and overtake Igor whenever I want. But then the safety car came, and apparently I don't know where I received damage, and for some reason the game set the option for changing the wing to yes, which I didn't do. So it changed my wing, which lost me the position to Salkin and pretty much lost me any chance of even getting the win. If that didn't happen, I would still be able to have overtaken Igor and would have been in the situation where Salkin was in. So yeah, the game is just really awful, with loads of bugs, and I'm happy when the season is over, but at least now I'm in the championship lead, so that's something, I guess.
Yep. Even on points, but in the lead on wins, so congratulations. It's been a while since you got back there, but well done today. A tough race, but you got through it. I can't really say too much more than that. It was absolutely brutal, and I want to say thank you very much for giving it your all. It was great to watch. And we move on to Tom. Tom, that was a tough one. What happened there, retiring in the end from the race?
Yeah, it just wasn't motivating in the end. First in the sprint race, had no chance from lap 1 on because of front wing damage, which was seen on stream. It was my first encounter with the Red Bull, and my second encounter was then in the main race, which I was really not happy with. Yeah, first then went quite well for me, even though it doesn't look like it because it was so slow, but I expected it. Made one mistake in the end of my first stint, lost a couple of seconds, then pitted, came out behind the Red Bull, and then he just spun out in the last turn. And because I was already so close, he gave me front wing damage, so I had to immediately pit again. So I was out of any contention. Like my plan was maybe fighting with PJ because of his penalty, or with the others like Briscoe and Frantic, because from how early they pitted, I was expecting them to pit again, which would have made put him in the range of PJ and myself, but after that wasn't helping. And then when I retired, for some reason I spun the hairpin. I don't know even why, maybe I touched some grass or whatnot. But like I spun, was on this lap, and then I had no nerves anymore and just got off the game.
Yeah. That's a tough one, and I'm sorry for those issues, but hopefully you can find a better race later on into the season with the last few races that we've got. Thank you very much, Tom, and we'll see you next time. And we move on to Jericho. Jericho, what a hell of a race. First of all, the sprint race, qualifying position was pretty nice, and you were right up there. In the main race, what happened with the strategy? Because you went as really, really long.
Yeah, the main race, qualifying was decent. I didn't have a lot of time to prep, so I was actually happy with a 7.4. That was pretty good for me, so I was pretty happy with that position. And then the race, it was a toss-up between pitting the lap before Heish or the lap after, and I was gonna go before, but kind of in just a split-second decision, decided to go a lap after, which was fine actually, because the second stint was really good, and I think we were on track to have McLaren 1-2 in the end. Honestly, I mean, we were closing in very quickly. I think we had quite a tire delta on the two ahead. I was probably one lap away from DRS on the leaders with 1 to 3 lap newer tires. So it was unfortunate that it was right about to get interesting for me. The entire race's plan was about to kick off, and then the safety car comes out and just stops the race. And so disappointing. But considering the issue with Heisch's wing being changed and us having to stack the pits for the safety car, for me to still get fourth, I think is pretty good. So, I have to take the positives from the race, and so that could have been disastrous with the safety car, with us needing to pit together. If there was a couple people tight behind me, I would have got shuffled back. So, I'll take that as a positive. Happy to finish, the last race for a while in a decent position, and continue to extend the lead that McLaren has in the championship, and to help Heisch get into that championship lead, which was the goal. So I know he's having a tough day, but it's been a lot of work for him to get back to this position. So he should, take the positives with that, and he's in a great position to fight for the remainder of the season. So, and a big congratulations to Sulkin as well. I know he worked hard for this race, practicing this week, and he really got the track down and had really good pace, and pulled it off in the end. So congratulations to him.
Perfectly said. Thank you very much. And I'm going to do the maths so I can make sure I get it right next week. But I believe, if I'm correct in saying, you might already be championship winners for the McLaren team. So if that's the case, congratulations. If it's not, then maybe in a couple of races we'll see that happen. Thank you very much, Jericho. Really, really good to see you this season. And if we get to see you once more this season, that'd be great. If not, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And we move on to the final one, your race winner, second race of the season to take victory at. How about that? Sulkin, once again, another last lap battle right up to the line. Wow.
yeah, just I was content with the pace I had today. I felt like I had a pace in the sprint until me and Igor unluckily collided. So that was the sprint started off pretty bad in my opinion, but I felt in the start of quali I thought I had more pace than I did, but I managed to invalidate my last lap. I was improving 2.5 tenths, so I could maybe be in the P2, but in the race I think I managed a hold position, so I'm happy with holding position and managed to keep Jericho and what else was it? I think it was Frantic behind at the restart, and luckily Briscoe spun out, but for me that was lucky. So I got to P3. Me and Igor and Heisch were doing good in the top 3. I think Heisch controlled the pace good, unless he slowed down, I think because of he wanted to do Jericho to catch, but anything about that. I think the pace was really good today. When I got to the second stint, I felt the pace kept getting better. I almost like every lap you see frantic more and more, try to get in my DRS zone. I was always like 8 tenths, 9 tenths ahead of him. And then, yeah, the safety car came out. I didn't have a problem with it because I got the position of Hush because he's had this pit stop issue. But after that, I just like told myself I need to send it into some kind of turn, and I think I did that quite good. I didn't take anybody out, and I think I managed to race quite well from the start to the end. So yeah, happy with the result.
Congratulations. It was one hell of a race, and I enjoyed watching every moment of it. It was pretty impressive. I am going to ask the next race, do you think you can do it all over again? If you are there, of course, regardless, do you like Saudi Arabia? That's a brutal circuit, DRS train galore.
Yeah, actually, I'm very happy that it's Saudi Arabia next because I know somebody who's very good at the track, and maybe I may get some help. I really like the track, but I'm not very good at it, so I'll start practicing on Sunday probably.
Awesome. Can't wait. Thank you very much. Really good effort today. Congratulations, and we'll see you next time. Well done, Solkin.
Yep, see you.
And that's been it for the post-race interviews. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure. We will see you next weekend for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. We'll see you tomorrow for the F1.5 EU Championship in Brazil for another sprint race, for the final sprint race of the season. Once again, thank you very much, and bye-bye.